Today on the Unofficial Shopify podcast, we're going to get the behind-the-scenes story of Lady Gaga's website moving to a headless Shopify store. And we have with us today Michal Klim, CTO and co-founder of Commerce UI, a Shopify partner who architected that site, who built it, who is going to share that story with us. Your Shopify agency is Commerce UI. How did you get connected with Lady Gaga's team?
Michael Polanski was actually looking for an agency that has an experience building sites using hydrogen. So he has this idea of LadyGaga.com being headless or hydrogen, therefore, right from the beginning.
Michael Polanski, that's Lady Gaga's fiance and an IT investor. Like this man we assume is technically proficient. And so he made the decision that headless is the way to go.
Yes, so Michael is definitely technically proficient. He is in fact a Lady Gaga fiance, and he was very hands-on leader for the entire project. So he approached us with this idea of this site being headless, being hydrogen-based.
Surely Lady Gaga had they had a website before. What was it on? How did it work?
So actually, there were two sites. This is a pretty common setup for a legacy site. So the editorial site, LadyGaga.com, was a WordPress-based site, and it was purely editorial. The second part was the store. It's living under a subdomain, and that was the online store or liquid-based Shopify store site.
Yeah, that's not an unusual setup for a lot of stores. Like we see that with content creators, influencers, incredible musicians. And really it's like they want this very creative editorial experience. And so they have that on one CMS. And then, also we have a merch store, and that gets put on like a subdomain, like shop.ladygaga.com, and that ends up on a Shopify store. It's not an unusual setup. What was the reasoning, the logic behind saying, let's make these one cohesive site and let's make it headless?
It's very important in the context of this project to understand that the store of LadyGaga.com is not the most important part of the site. The editorial part of things is the most important part of the site. So this site serves more as a digital home for Lady Gaga. It's a go-to directory for the fans where they can get to know more about her music, see her all music in one place for the first time, and get to know more of all of those behind the scenes. And it's always also a platform to communicate almost directly from Stephanie to their fans. So editorial part played crucial role in LadyGaga.com, and then the store is coming right after. And when we think about it, so nowadays there's distinction between an editorial and e-commerce, either through the tech stack or through having two different sites for it, is quite artificial. So nowadays we want to actually connect the editorial part, this extended storytelling or rich storytelling, with the e-commerce part, with the merchandising.
You're building for a high-profile client, right? And not just a high-profile client, but the music industry, where things move very quickly. What's that experience like? How does that change things for you?
So to some extent, it was a usual project for us. Like definitely very, very high-profile client. I could argue the highest profile we had. But to a certain extent, it was quite a standard project. We migrating from older solution to new technological stack to headless, and there is all the things that comes with it. So we felt very comfortable with the stack. We worked with it previously, so both Shopify and Sanity. So from that point of view, nothing new. But at the same time, I would say that saying that music industry is fast moving industry is even a bit of an understatement. So this is true for many high profile clients from other verticals, also like fashion or product based. Like everyone wants to move fast and create campaigns that last for a week and then change it for another. But music industry is a completely another level. Like things change from day to day, and as warm up as it sounds, you have to be ready for everything. Like you have to be truly flexible. There are always multiple stakeholders involved, multiple, creative ideas floating around, multiple creatives working constantly on new cool visual assets or new cool creative ideas. And it's usual thing that one of this creative idea just clicks, like either on socials or through other channels. And when this idea clicks, why not to use it everywhere? And since it's based on since it's directed toward the fan base, you have to be fast. So when this idea clicks, you have to show it everywhere in newsletters or on your site. So you have to be ready to change everything from day to day. Time zones that don't exist. So basically you have to be able to push the content on any hour, and any day, and constantly pivoting is just a day to day in the music industry.
So basically, it 24/7. The way this has been presented is 24/7, 365. You're getting competing change requests, and then you have to keep up with that. That sounds
Exactly.
nightmarish from an agency standpoint. Oh my gosh.
It may sound like so. It's definitely challenging, but the thing is that we knew this. Like we were prepared by Micah and Lydia team for that, and we knew that this is the requirement right from the beginning, so we could prepare ourselves. We could actually build the system that allows us to achieve that.
And so your Shopify's headless solution, hydrogen and oxygen, and then on top of that, that gets paired to a third-party CMS. So you're not using the Shopify theme editor. In this case, you're using Sanity, correct?
Yes, exactly. So, Sanity is overall our CMS of choice in Commerce UI. We very much like its flexibility when it comes not only to the data structures, but also when it comes to building flows and custom editorial experience. And in the context of this project, that was even more important than it is usually. So, going with headless CMS, with flexible headless CMS, is a number one reason for us to go headless, actually. So whenever you have this more advanced editorial needs and you need something beyond built-in Shopify capabilities, that's where this is like a strong indicator for us to go headless. And this was this was the case in this project. So I've mentioned that we built the system around that helps us to actually work in this, high-pressure environment, and that's exactly what we did using the Sanity. So we could build very much bespoke editorial flows that, for one, allow Lady Gaga team to build whatever they want, to reuse even the smallest pieces of data or even smallest pieces of structures across different ideas, but at the same time allows us to reuse them and build something new or what's needed, reusing those small structures from our previous work. I guess having this flexibility, having this more of an external CMS was a big part of the success.
To this day, I still don't understand the advantage of the third-party CMS over the traditional theme editor.
For one, it's very easy to integrate the data from various different resources. So that's one. For two, you can build your own funnel or your own editorial experience.
Aha. Now
Shopify
there's an
editorial
advantage.
capabilities are great. They are actually very, very good, but they are very generic. So if you have deeply nested data structures like meta objects inside the meta objects inside the meta objects, it can become very complex in a very short time. So, and you have just one structure, one language, one visualization for all of the cases. That's completely understandable. But whereas with the external CMS, you can build something that is understandable by non-technical people and speaks the actual language of the user. So we can make this panel more theirs, and therefore make them use it basically. So historically, we saw a couple of different examples, either completely lack of editorial experience or abilities to actually change the editorial of the site, or actually actual, editorial experience in place, but so complex, so unpredictable for non-technical users that people weren't actually using it. So that's where those headless CMS came in, where you can actually build much more flexible system.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Is like really the big advantage here is we want to customize the theme editor. That's the thing we can't do. And so
Yes.
if we can pair a third-party CMS to the Shopify ecosystem, the third-party CMS like Sanity, which Sanity seems to be like that is the number one choice if you're doing headless these days, which it comes up a lot. That's the big advantage. Custom CMS. Okay, got you there. On a site like this, the focus is not necessarily sales. So it isn't traditional e-commerce metrics like conversion rate, right? We're trying to balance art and commerce here, which makes it more interesting. So what's the measure of success here? Engagement?
You can call it engagement, but I guess if we call it engagement, many people that are listening to us may think, okay, there is like a certain characteristic, like there is a engagement score somewhere, and there isn't. Like it's very, very natural. So I guess this site wasn't like the main goal wasn't, to increase the conversion rates, to increase some other characteristics. So this site is very personal project for Stephanie, and it's dedicated towards the fans. And I can say that both Stephanie and Micah, they have like this really good sense of what their fans want and what they expect and what they like actually. So a lot of decisions is based on a hunch, or just on this ability to understand their fan base, and it works out. I had the discussion about the site that some of the features are completely unreasonable. Like the amount of work they took may not be may not have a very good, ROI. But it actually has. This is a thing about the site. We get the instant feedback about any feature we introduce to the site. Like the moment we put it on production, thousands of people actually trying it out and sharing their thoughts on Reddit, Twitter, whenever. And we instantly know if it clicked or not. And for the most of time, it's totally clicking.
It is, yeah, it's a different thing when there's like an entire active subreddit devoted to and watching for changes instantaneously the site you're working on. I have not had this experience. I've talked to a few people, they were always big musicians, and they had this experience, and they're like, oh, it's different. It changes you. When did this
It
site go
is.
live?
It was 27th of January. So it was preceded
What's that
by.
experience like launching this thing?
Yeah, it was quite a different adrenaline rush. Like every release, is something mm, something different. So, and it's always a bit chaotic or nervous type. But this was something entirely different. Like we were expecting a huge spike in traffic just before the release, like 1 week before. We actually released this countdown page. So every day on a certain hour, the graphic changed on the site. So every day there was a different graphic. So the second it changed, once again, Twitter, Reddit, it was blowing up. Like everyone was writing, okay, what does it mean? How cool it looks, etc., etc. And that's where we actually felt like, okay, many people are watching us and very closely. So it has to be done. So we are very used to launching the site on a specific date. But in this case, it had to be launched on a specific, minute or so. So it was correlated with all of the other marketing campaigns, with setting up all of the banners and traditional media and so on. So we had to be ready on an almost exact second, and we knew that thousands of people would be watching us. So definitely a different kind of adrenaline adrenaline rush.
And on the site's wild. It's got just all kinds of incredible technical features clicking through it. I mean, it is the experience I would expect. It's extremely visual, it's snappy, it feels sophisticated and different, and I love it. What are the features that you're most proud of? What's the stuff that it sounds like they challenged you to build some different things or to build things differently than you may have normally because this is about engagement and storytelling. What are those features?
There are a couple of them that I really like. So for one, the mood experience. So the mood experience is this kind of an unreasonable feature I did talk about. The mood feature is whenever you go to collection page to PLP and there is a certain era or certain music release, you can turn on the mood, which basically changes the site, changes its background to corresponds to the exact music release vibe, let's call it. So
That's a cool one. The worst part is not as nice as yours, but we've built things like that for clients, and they're like, nah, because they're not focused on storytelling, right? They're like, well, I don't know if that'll help, and then never launch
yeah,
it. Or
yeah,
even just like, hey, let's just switch between light and dark mode, guys, and
exactly,
we get pushback on that too.
exactly. And whenever you think about of something like that, the answer will always be don't do it. But if you want to go beyond it, that's where the magic happens basically. So
one of my favorite little Easter egg on this site is the pagination on a collection. It uses a load more button, but every time there's lyrics at the end of the collection
yes,
grid, and every time you click load more, the little line of lyric changes to a different song. I think
yes,
that's just a
yes,
small one. I love those little Easter eggs. They're so fun.
it's
All right,
quite
give me one
small.
more.
One more 3D gallery. I have to go with it. 3D
There's a
gallery on the
3D
music.
gallery. Where do I find that on the site?
Just go to the music. So if you swipe it, and
Oh,
yeah,
there we go.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So
It's
this
got
is
like
an
a little
effect.
motion, little physics to it.
Yes, exactly. You can see the shadows overlapping the different elements. So yeah,
It makes it feel very physical.
it is. It is, and that was the actual idea that you go through the collection of your vinyls and yeah, you had this feel of it. So yeah, I couldn't do it myself, so that's why I had to mention it. I like it very much. Quite proud of it. So
What's funny is I have a CRO checklist I use that's like, this is our best practices. And it's all built around conversion rate. It's like there's so many things. Like if I did an audit of this site, I'd be like, well, here's the 20 things that our best practices say you would change. And of course, that's absurd to say that on a creative, very branded experience like this. Like it would ruin the mood and the purpose of it to make it like this very conversion focused thing. And yet I'm sure this does phenomenal sales. For me, that takeaway is know your audience. Like over and over, you're like, the reason it looks the way it does or operates the way it does is because they know what their fans expect and want from them. And this is representative of that. So would you agree with that takeaway?
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I guess, right after we launched the site, already some of the items were gone after they were sold after a couple of minutes. So I guess you can call it a success. And of course, Lady Gaga example is quite unique to some extent, but definitely know your audience, and what works for everyone doesn't have to work for you. And sometimes being different is what makes the success.
For sure, I think if creativity is a cornerstone of your brand, of your tone and personality, then you probably want to avoid, taking a conversion first approach for 100% of everything. The Lady Gaga site, still very easy to use, still quite intuitive. It just doesn't follow best practices. We're doing a little more exploration and a little more novelty. Do you think there's any other takeaways that everyday Shopify brands may have about this site?
With Lady Gaga, there is something different. We going actually outside of this page building experience and building bespoke features for certain campaigns or for certain releases. And my takeaway for this would be to actually think about, actually going outside this page building experience, making something crazy, adding this kind of an Easter egg, going outside of a system, doing something non-standard. And of course, it depends, but it can bring great results.
And you said you had to move fast on this and stay
Yes.
flexible. How fast did you do this?
So the entire project took something around, 5 to 6 months. So that's I guess this is a pretty normal time frame for projects as such. But at the same time, we pivoted the project a couple of times during that development. To give you the sense of the speed after the release, so we are 1 month after, we rebuilt the homepage already 4 times, and it wasn't pre-planned. Every new version of the homepage was created out of the idea in a couple of days and released as is.
It's quite incredible what you've done here collectively as a team. I think my takeaway here is we can be so focused on optimizing for one metric when instead we could optimize for the experience, in which case really what we're optimizing for is being unforgettable. And that's what this has done. And that's what I love about it. So, I mean,
Totally agree.
congrats, phenomenal job.
Thank you very much.
And if we wanted to learn more about you and your services, where would we go?
Just visit our site, Commerce UI.
Beautiful. Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.